Welcome back. In this episode number 11, I'm going to build on the concept of assurance and specifically discuss the idea that assurance depends on safeguards or controls. Sticking with my rule of three, we will talk about three different categories of controls: administrative controls, physical controls, and technical controls. I will provide examples of each of those types of controls and discuss how they fit into the overall matter of your enterprise cyber risk management program. As a quick reminder of where we are in our journey, please refer to the slide that I'm exhibiting now. I plan to record a total of 30 episodes, including the introduction. I may decide to delete, add, or change some along the way. Additionally, if you've not already subscribed to the YouTube channel that houses all of these episodes, I would encourage you to do so that you may receive updates on new materials and new episodes that we post. Additionally, feel free to provide feedback. And last but not least, if you know of anyone who may benefit from these materials, please feel free to share the YouTube channel and link with them. Here's how HIPAA happens to categorize controls, and most control frameworks are very similar to this. There are administrative controls, physical controls, and technical controls. When it comes to administrative controls, think about things like policies and procedures and governance, your security management process, risk analysis, risk management, your business continuity plan, and things along those lines. The second category is physical controls. Think about guns, guards, gates, lighting, fences, etc. that would inhibit an attacker. And then last but not least are technical controls. These are the things that organizations and people sadly often run to right away. In this case, the examples that I have here: firewalls, intrusion detection systems, intrusion prevention, encryption, your mobile device management solution, etc. The question is this: where do controls fit into your enterprise cyber risk management program? As I mentioned a moment ago, too many organizations rush right to controls thinking that's the end-all be-all. Here's some important things to think about. Number one, you don't start your enterprise cyber risk management program by thinking about or talking about controls. You begin by identifying and prioritizing your unique risk. Controls will come into the process. They will be important to us at a certain point in place, but that's when and only when we understand what our unique risks are. Think about it this way. Suppose you went to your homeowner's insurance broker and said to him or her, "Provide to me a list of all the kinds of things I can do at home to make my home environment more safe and less risky." And he or she provides to you a long list of things you might do, one of which is to install safety mechanisms on cabinet doors for babies so they can't get in. Let's say you don't have babies. Are you going to implement those? No. Let's say another item on the list is to install a safety bar on sliding glass doors. If you live on the 22nd floor of a condo building where it's physically impossible for someone to reach your sliding glass door, do you really need to install a safety bar as a separate second locking mechanism? No, I don't think so. Focus on your unique risk. That's what we're all about. We advocate that organizations take a risk-based approach to their enterprise cyber risk management program, not a controls checklist-based approach. We could spend multiple sessions talking about controls, but we're basically going to leave it here. I will just add the following. In many cases, organizations will look at controls as to their overall control objective. For example, there are things called detective controls or preventive controls or corrective controls or compensating controls. In fact, using the categories that I have on this slide, administrative, physical, technical, you might envision those being the columns of a matrix and the rows being those other categories that I just mentioned. And there are various types of administrative controls, physical controls, and technical controls. For our purposes, we're going to leave it at these three categories that are shown. What we covered in this episode was the concept that assurance requires or depends on certain safeguards or controls being implemented. We talked about administrative controls, physical controls, and technical controls. As always, I'm wrapping up this session by showing you some suggested actions as well as some references and resources. I encourage you, while the material is still somewhat fresh in your mind, you might consider undertaking some of the actions that are suggested here, as well as reviewing some of the references and resources that I provided. In the next episode, if we're going to ultimately implement safeguards and controls, we need to understand how we make informed, intelligent decisions about which controls to implement. That is, which are relevant to our unique risk. In the course of making those decisions, we need to take stock of where we are. What's our current environment like? And what are, again, our unique risks? In order to do so, we're going to talk about 3 different kinds of evaluations or assessments. Number 1, compliance assessments, also known as compliance gap assessments. Where do I stand with respect to specific regulations? Number 2, we'll talk about technical testing, that which is done to assess the effectiveness of those controls that we do have in place. And then last but not least, we're going to talk about undertaking risk analysis. Until then, subscribe to the YouTube channel, be well, be secure, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.